The following contest scheduled for one fall.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to One Fall Friday. This week we are going to go over a little bit of Raw and a little bit of SmackDown, tiny bit of NXT, and we're going to talk about, we're not going to go over the second round, quarterfinal, and semifinals of the Mae Young Classic. We're just, because they were all great matches, and I encourage all of you, if you can, if you have the WWE Network, definitely check those matches out. You will not be disappointed, but I want to really talk about the finals that we're going to see. The final match of the Classic. It's happening this Tuesday. It's going to be live, and that's really the focal point. It's going to take me a lot to talk about what I want to talk about. I mean, it seems like I have kind of an unpopular opinion about this. You'll probably, you know where I'm going to go with this by the title of this video. But let's go ahead and start off by talking about what happened on Monday Night Raw. Okay, so this week on Monday Night Raw, we're building up matches towards No Mercy in, I think it's 3 weeks. This card is really starting to look like a good, solid card. Hell, one of the major pay-per-views, like a Royal Rumble, a SummerSlam, Survivor Series, hell, even maybe a WrestleMania. These matches are starting to look really, really good on paper. Hopefully they'll be able to deliver. Obviously, the undisputed, the Universal Championship is going to be Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman. We talked about that a little bit. Braun Strowman had a cage match against Big Show, and that was one of the better two big men matches that I've seen in a while. It's kind of hard for two big guys like that to have a good match, but Braun Strowman, he keeps getting better all the time. His microphone work is down, his presence is down, his moves look really, really good. And Big Show, he's a veteran, he's been around for a long time, and he looks great for his age, and he's still going, and I'm so happy that he's able to still go. So this match was a very, very good match as far as, the confines of a steel cage match with two giant guys go. You weren't really going to see anybody trying to climb out over the top, and that didn't really happen. Big Show dropped an elbow from the top rope, and I didn't see that coming. He did that back when he was the Giant in WCW. It had been years since he'd done it, but man, he looked great for a 7-foot tall guy to fly across the ring like that. It looked really, really good. If you can find it on YouTube, check it out, or if you have Hulu, or just whatever, check out that elbow drop. It was a really good elbow drop. But Braun Strowman did come out on top, and not that it was predictable, but it was kind of expected in order for Strowman to have a lot of momentum going into his title match. We are going to see the rematch of Cesaro and Sheamus versus Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. Should be a very good match. Their first match was great. I think they can make their second match even better, and we'll see what happens. So the women's title match for Raw has become another fatal four-way. And now I understand you only have one title for the women's division, and you have a limited number of superstars for the women's division. So yeah, you want as many people to have as much time as possible. But to me, and even in the men's division, I'm just, the Fatal 4-Way is just getting tired. It's being overused, and it's just kind of like, I don't care anymore. But, Nia's getting a title shot, she's in the picture, and Emma is in the picture as well. So it's good to see Emma at least have somewhat of an opportunity at the title. It would be cool if Emma won, but I really don't think that they're going down that road. She's getting a lot of momentum on Twitter with her hashtags, and it would be really, really good to see Emma win the title. But I think they're really trying to give Nia a chance, finally, after, God, how long? She didn't even have a title run in NXT. And so I guess now they're like, well, she's getting better. Her promos still need work. She had a screw up in a backstage segment, but nobody's perfect, and I get that. And I'm not trying to say that she doesn't deserve it because of that one screw up, but still needs to polish up her game. If she does polish up her game, she could be a really, really good money draw. And I think that's what they're trying to get to and what they're hoping for. But Alexa Bliss, man, she's just so good. I mean, she works perfectly as a heel, and I think after a while she could have a good face run as well. I think that she could get people behind her, and she doesn't even have to change her persona. She can keep the attitude that she has, and she could be a really good face. And Sasha, she started off as a heel, and I think she needs to go back as a heel. She's kind of gotten lost, in the shuffle, between the brand split and bringing on, Bayley and everything that she went through with Charlotte Flair, passing the title back and forth. She's kind of in between a rock and a hard place at this point, and I hope they can figure out something to fix that, whether it's a heel turn or, keeping her on the shelf for a while and then bringing her back in a big moment. I don't know what the answer is, but hopefully they can figure that out. Okay, let's talk a little bit about SmackDown. There was a number one contenders match between Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura to determine who was going to face Jinder Mahal at their next pay-per-view, which is after No Mercy. I think it's Hell in a Cell. And Shinsuke Nakamura won. He beat Randy Orton. They had a really good match. Shinsuke was actually able to show a little bit more of his strikes than he usually does. A lot of knee strikes, and that's what I like about Shinsuke. His footwork and his kicks are really, really good, and they need to let him show that off a little bit more. But, like I said a few weeks ago, now I'm a little more invested from a storytelling standpoint for Shinsuke versus Jinder. Their first match, it didn't really get promoted that well. It was Shinsuke beat John Cena, and he got the match, and there was really no interaction between the two. So you almost had to count on Shinsuke not winning that match. Now, there's been a lot more interaction between these two, and with the Bollywood boys, the Singh brothers, and now I think, they still have a lot of time before Hell in a Cell gets here too. So now we're going to be able to get that, the reason why you should get behind Shinsuke in this match. I'm not saying he's necessarily going to win this match. I mean, he might, but then again, he might not. I really think that they're happy with Jinder as WWE champion right now. But it's more of a believable matchup is what I'm trying to say. All right, so some interesting things happened with Kevin Owens. He came out at the start of the show, was running his mouth. Here comes Shane McMahon. There's, definitely some chemistry going on between these two. And Kevin Owens pushed the wrong buttons. Shane McMahon put his hands on Kevin. And, storytelling wise, Shane is suspended indefinitely. Now, I think the reason why they did this is because they're going to turn this around and set up a match between Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon at Hell in a Cell. Hell, they might even be in a Hell in a Cell match. That's, something that Shane's definitely not scared of. It's something that I don't think Kevin Owens has ever done, so it would be cool to see Kevin Owens in a Hell in a Cell match. And I think they could have a really, really good match. And, maybe they could tie it in. It's like, well, if Shane wins, he can have his job back. But if not, then if Kevin wins, then he has to leave forever. Something to that effect. They can make it work. I can see this happening. I really don't think that Shane is going to be done with SmackDown. I think he's just maybe this is all kayfabe and it's working towards the next pay-per-view for that. This next coming Tuesday on SmackDown, we have 3 title matches. We're getting the SmackDown Tag Team title rematch with the Usos and the New Day. It's going to be a street fight, but they're calling it a Sin City street fight because it's going to be in Las Vegas. That's going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be a good match to see because that means that the New Day, all 3 members can be involved in this match with no ramifications, with no disqualification. They don't have to worry about that because it's a street fight. That means there's no rules, no DQ. So I'm really anxious to see where this is going to go, and it definitely gives New Day an advantage of getting the titles back. The second title match that we're going to have is the rematch from SummerSlam with new SmackDown Women's Champion Natalya against Naomi. Really don't know where they're going with this one. I don't know. I think that Natalya will retain. I don't know. Carmella's been kind of a factor lately. She's just kind of like, they're keeping her on screen so people won't forget, hey, she's Miss Money in the Bank. She can cash in anytime. Will it happen at Las Vegas? maybe. I mean, it's a gambling town, and who knows? That could be kind of the theme, and something that she can kind of run with if she's successful in cashing in. So, I think Natalya will retain. I think if Naomi happens to get the title back, maybe then Carmella will cash in and maybe take the title from Naomi, and then that could lead like a triple threat match between those three. That would be pretty interesting to see. We'll have to wait till Tuesday. And the third match is the United States title, AJ Styles versus Ty Dillinger. That should be a pretty good match. Their first match, it was kind of short. It was the U.S. Open Challenge, and Ty Dillinger showed up. I don't think it went on more than 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes that we did have was very, very good, and I'm anxious to see these two go at it again. But I think AJ Styles will retain the U.S. title. All right, this past episode on NXT, we saw Asuka give the title up, and I mentioned that, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, whenever it happened. When they film NXT, I think they do it like 3 or 4 shows in one taping. That way they can just space it out, and that way it gives them more time to work with the talent and to train and work on like, okay, let's watch this back, let's see what worked, let's see what didn't work, and we'll work on this. So that's pretty cool. But I don't know if it's real or not, but I was hearing that Asuka had a broken tailbone, and that was another reason. It wasn't just because she's leaving NXT to go to the main roster. That's how they built it up on the show, but I think behind the scenes she actually has a broken tailbone and she's needing to take some time off, because this has already happened and she hasn't jumped to either show yet. She hasn't been on Raw, she hasn't been on SmackDown. What I actually thought was going to happen was when Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss had their rematch after SummerSlam the following Monday on Monday Night Raw. I figured that Sasha Banks would have retained and then Asuka would have debuted, because honestly, who doesn't want to see Sasha Banks versus Asuka? That's money right there. Those are two of the biggest names from the women's division that came out of NXT. That's why wouldn't you make this match? It needs to happen. Seriously, sometime down the line, we will see Sasha Banks versus Asuka. Maybe it'll be later rather than sooner. I don't know, but it definitely will happen, and that's going to be a good match. All right, now we're going to get to the topic of the title of this video. The finals for the Mae Young Classic is going to be Kairi Sane, very well deserving, versus Shayna Baszler. Not so deserving. Don't get me wrong, okay? Everybody that was in this tournament deserved to be in this tournament, and I get it. This was a step forward for the women's division, for gender equality. I get it. I understand that, and I'm all for that. But put somebody in the final that should be in the final. Shayna Baszler, her first match didn't last more than 2.5-3 minutes long. It was very cut and dry. She was going up against Zeta, who's kind of similar. They have similar styles, MMA, submission, strikes, that sort of thing. I got that. I understood that. And you advance her to the second round because she's Shayna Baszler and she's famous. I get that. I understand that. But when you have her go over against Mia Yim, and then you have her go over against Candice LeRae, and then you have her go over against Mercedes Martinez, that's when I have a problem. All three of those women were way better wrestlers and way more deserving to be in that final spot. Mia Yim and Candice LeRae, they absolutely carried Shayna through both of those matches. She has a total of 2 moves. One, like it's like a gut wrench suplex, and then she rolls over, picks them up, suplexes them again. Okay, that's cool. I'll give you that. But that's all you got. You're throwing kicks and punches that look not convincing at all. It's like, yes, it's professional wrestling, but you're still supposed to make it look convincing. It's not supposed to be blatantly obvious that it's fake. And her selling, whether she's taking a move from an opponent or she's dishing out a move herself, she always has that shit-eating, resting bitch face on her face. And I can't stand that. It's like, why are you putting her in the main picture when there's women that have been wrestling just as long as her, if not shorter, that were in this tournament, and their matches looked 100 times better? I just don't get it. I think it's because Stephanie McMahon has some kind of girl boner for Shayna Baszler. Regardless, I mean, she, you know, I don't know. She shouldn't be in there just because she's Shayna Baszler. You know, her name alone and her size shouldn't be what carries her into the final. I went on record last week and I said, you know, when Kairi Sane and Tessa Blanchard, they had a round 1 matchup, that was the final match right there. Those were the two people. I mean, one of them obviously is in the final, but Tessa Blanchard, she should have been on the other side of the bracket, and she should be in the final. That was your final match right there. That would have been the draw. That would have made the Mae Young Classic that much better. The Mae Young Classic has been great, but it would have been better if it had been booked a little bit better. People, like I said, I think I'm the only one that really feels this way because I was doing research to see if I was the only one that felt this way about Shayna, and a lot of people are giving her praise, and I don't get it. I don't think I'm really losing touch that much. I'm not that old, but I guess I just have an unpopular opinion about the subject. Oh, God. This turned into a rant and I didn't mean it to. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me this week. I wanted to keep it a little bit short. I didn't want to spend too much time talking about the matches because, you know, I went on a big tirade about Shayna Baszler. The only cool thing that's coming out about this, I want to add one more thing. The only cool thing that's coming out of this was that they were teasing a potential match between the 4 horsewomen of WWE, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bayley, and Sasha Banks, versus the 4 horsewomen of MMA, Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey, and 2 other women that I've never heard of. Because I like UFC. I appreciate it. It's really, really cool to watch UFC fights, but I really don't follow it enough to know like who people are, what their win-loss record is, if they're a good fighter or not. I'm not that interested in it. I just appreciate it for what it is. I think it's 100 times more entertaining than boxing, but that's a discussion for another time. And some people think that, you know, they're going to make it happen sooner than later, that it would happen at like Survivor Series, and I can see that. That would make that would make sense, that kind of match, 4-person or, you know, 4-man team elimination. I would rather it happen at WrestleMania though. Obviously you know how I feel about Shayna Baszler. I don't know how much training Ronda Rousey has had. I mean, everybody has been talking about Ronda Rousey going to WWE. It's imminent, especially at this point, you know, with what they're doing. But they don't need to make this match happen at Survivor Series. They need that extra 7-8 months it is, however long it is, to the next WrestleMania to train, to learn how to wrestle. Shayna, learn how to fucking wrestle. And, you know, these other 2 women, you know, I'm sure they don't know, you know, a wrist lock from a fucking wrist watch. And Ronda Rousey, like I said, I'm not sure. I know that she's been involved with the company, but these women need to learn how to wrestle if they're going to have a wrestling match. So anyway, the Mae Young Classic, the final is this Tuesday. I'm going to be watching it. It's live on the WWE Network. I think it's probably going to air right after SmackDown. So we'll be talking about the final match, and we'll go over Raw and SmackDown and whatever happens on NXT. But until then, thank you guys very much for watching this episode. I'll be back later with another video. I hope to see you there. My name is Dave, and I am the One Man Rave. See ya!